All right, guys, this is a demo to make diamond mirrors out of landscape-oriented photos. Distinctly different instructions than those you would make with a portrait orientation photo. Okay, just for clarification, a portrait photo or a vertical photo is oriented this way, landscape photos this way. We're going to do this one for landscape photos. So we've got Google Slides open, and I'm going to try to get my face out of the way here. We're going to go to Insert Image from wherever you happen to store them. And I'm going to use this guy right here. I'm going to go ahead and insert it. And there it is. Okay, first thing we're going to do once our landscape photo is open is we're going to go up here to the crop tool and go to the scroll down menu from the crop tool, then down to shapes. Scroll over here, down to the second row to the right triangle. Clip that baby, and it just automatically cuts out a nice right triangle from our shape. That is a lot of work that software just did for us. Okay, now what we're going to do is right click right on the image. We're going to copy it. Right click again and paste. Then we're going to right click, go up to rotate and flip horizontally. Now's where things get a little more precision oriented. And that is one of your goals here in creating these. You're going to want to try to do it as precise as this technology will allow. And it will allow a high degree of precision. So we are going to right click on that new piece that we just made, and we're going to go to Format Options. Now, when the Format Options menu comes up, we're going to go up here to Size and Rotation and drop that down to give us a bunch of options. Herein starts the very specific directions. In the rotate angle, we're going to set it to 253.7 degrees. And that gets our new piece in about the best alignment we could hope with the other piece. Okay, our next step is going to be to come over here and click on that piece that we just rotated to make it active. And now we are going to nudge it into place. And a really important and fancy technique for nudging is to use the arrow keys, but to get really precise, we're going to hold down the Shift key. So hold down the Shift key and use your arrow keys to nudge this thing into alignment. And while you're holding the Shift key down, it is moving this 1 pixel at a time. And this will allow us to get as close to perfect as we can along that seam, so that images line up along the seam, and so that the image doesn't overlap at all, that it just butts right up to itself without leaving a gap in between the two images. So Shift key, up, down. I'm using primarily the up arrow and the left arrow to try to get it in perfect alignment. It's a little hard to see your gap because a blue line forms, but if you just click on the outside of your image, the blue line will disappear and it will reveal whether or not your points are lined up and whether or not your gap in between the two pieces is lined up. or if there is still a gap. Now you can see, possibly if you have a large screen, that I have a small white line indicating a gap. So I'm going to click back on that piece, shift, I'm going to close that gap just a little bit. Click on that, see what we got. Okay, nothing seems to be staggered. This one does look like it could come down. One more click. Now my points are lining up. Things along the seam look good. All right, we're good for the next step. Okay, now we need to group these two images. They're still two separate images. We want to make it one. So I'm going to go up here into the background with my cursor, and I'm just going to drag a box across both of them. And that then will allow me to right-click and group them. So now they're going to move as a unit. They're unified. They're no longer on two separate layers, essentially. Once we've grouped them, we're going to go back to Format Options. And we're going to change the angle again. We're going to set that angle to 53 degrees. And that puts it more or less perfectly vertical and looking more like the diamond shape that we're going for. And you might already see some fun, weird faces and critters emerging. That is the hope. Okay. If your format options aren't showing, you can right-click in here and click Format Options. They'll show up again. First thing we need to do once we're back in size and rotation is click on the lock aspect ratio, and we're going to change the height. By locking the aspect ratio, when we change the height, it'll automatically keep the width proportional, so it's not going to stretch it or distort it in any way. So you want to click lock aspect ratio. We're going to go up here and change the height to 4.5 inches. And then we're going to drag, we're going to come back over here, click, and drag this guy into a relatively centered vertically, but over to the left side of that slide. I'm just going to use the arrow keys. Sometimes with all this box and grid stuff, it's hard to tell exactly where your piece is, but if you look at the small thumbnail over to the left, you'll be able to kind of gauge where it is. And what we're going for is equal gap on the top, left, and bottom. And I think we are pretty close to that. Maybe I'll go up just a little bit. All right, now what we want to do, we still have these two images joined or grouped, and we're going to right-click and copy. And then right-click and paste. Right-click and rotate. This time we're going to flip vertically. And we're going to drag this guy over. Oh, a whole different world of funny faces emerges. And we're going to, again, maybe look at the smaller thumbnail to try to get the alignment nice. Click off so you don't see all the grid lines, sort of look at your gaps. You could probably move that guy over a little bit. All right, looking pretty good. In fact, I think they're pretty fun. Just in case your imagination is not working today, things are leaping at me all over the place. And for me, this is the real joy of these mirrors, just how many crazy things start to emerge. On the left side here, if you look and see these as eyes, and these as kind of weird earmuffs or like things like a horse wears to keep them from getting spooked. It's kind of like a clown with his pink nose and his open mouth. He's got sort of painted red lips. And then over here, I see this kind of as a pig snout, and again, eyes, and then the little visors. I forget what that thing is called. But it's also fun for me to kind of look over at the smaller versions and see if you don't see something different, because oftentimes the scale determines what kind of creatures you're going to see. In this case, I see something a little more menacing. I see this top image as kind of an angry, menacing warrior of some sort. These black holes become his face, pink nose, and then these blue things are now sort of shoulder pads as a part of a coat of armor. Still seeing that funny sort of confused clown over there. Anyway, these are the instructions, and I hope you have fun with them, and I hope you allow your imagination to find all kinds of wonder in them. If we can't have some wonder and imagination, we're doomed. Enjoy, my friends. Adios.